Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Mandy and I am doing another full face today and I'm concentrating on Vieve makeup. I have done one of these in the past and I purchased everything I used in that video, and since then they have sent me some products. So I'm gonna use some new, some ones I already had to get this full face for you, tell you what I think of the new things I'm trying. If you are not familiar with the brand, it was started by Jamie Genevieve, who is a makeup artist in Scotland. I've always loved her makeup, always, ever since she started a YouTube channel. I've always loved her style. She does phenomenal warm eye makeup looks, but she also creates really good products. So I'm gonna show you how I use said products in this look, so let's jump in. Let's start with complexion. I am gonna be using the Skin Nova Complexion Balm as kind of my foundation. But they did send me over the Super Skin Nova, and in the original video that I posted, I used the original Skin Nova. And I mentioned in that video that it was fine, but I felt like if I had to choose between this and the highlight, the Skin Dew, I would choose the Skin Dew. This one is different than the original. I'm gonna swatch both. And I don't know if you're gonna be able to tell a difference. This is the original, and this is the Super Skin. The Super Skin feel is much thicker and actually has on the swatch a little bit less dew to it, and I feel like that's the case when I use it on the skin as well. It has 33 skincare ingredients and it's technically marketed as a primer, but it is in the instructions that it can be used alone. I like using this just rubbing it in with my fingers. I just don't feel like you need a brush for this. I haven't tried mixing this in with the foundation, and quite honestly, I don't know that it would work that well. I feel like if you want something to add luminosity, the original Skin Nova might be better because it's thinner. And I feel like the formulation is gonna be better mixed with foundations versus this one that again has a little bit of thickness. Now, you can use it by itself, but it does not provide coverage. What it did was it just provided a little bit of luminosity. I don't know if you're gonna be able to tell if you were to watch that first video, but I do feel like this one has a tad bit less luminosity than the original. But it feels good under my skin and it works really well with the Skin Nova Complexion Balm. I am in the shade 210. I mentioned in my original video how much I like this, and that has not changed. It wears so beautifully. I applied it in that video with a flat paddle brush and then blended it out with a sponge because my skin was much drier during that period. So now I'm just kind of blending it in with a less dense brush. This is the Beauty Pie Angled Cheek Brush. It kind of shears it out a little bit more, which I like for this time of year because I don't want something super heavy on my skin. And I feel like I always tend to film right after I self-tanned where my skin is still so dark. I don't let a self-tan stay on for 2 hours and then rinse it off. I let it stay on overnight, actually for 24 hours, and then I rinse it off in my next shower. So this is like a non-rinsed off self-tan, and I feel like I always, even though I only self-tan once a week, I always tend to film the day after to where it looks kind of crazy. So you're still getting that luminosity from the Skin Nova that we have underneath, but it did add coverage. I can still see a tiny bit of my redness, and I still have a little bit left over in my hand. So, you know, you can build it up a little bit, but this is not really the fault of the product. It's the brush that I'm using. Because it is not super dense and technically not a foundation brush, it is gonna shear it out more, thus compromising some of the coverage as you would have gotten if you would have used a more dense actual foundation brush. But it does build up a little bit, just stippling it on top of the areas that I need a little bit more coverage. Now let's use the Modern Radiance Concealer. I also use this a little bit differently in that video that I'm gonna use it today. I actually went in with a brush, picked it up directly from the doe foot, and then blended it out. I will say you need such a small amount of this concealer. It is very, very, very pigmented and has a good amount of coverage, but still wears really nicely under the eye. I am in the shade Light 4, and I'm just gonna start out with a dot where I have the most darkness, which is on this little trough area, I like to call it. And then I've been taking a mini damp sponge. I haven't used a sponge in a hot minute under my eyes. But this is what I've been doing with really all of my concealers lately, just to ensure I don't use too much product. Every day that I get a day older, I find the less amount of product I need on my face, especially under my eyes. So when I look down, I still see darkness, but you know what? I'm a human being, and that's what happens. I'm not gonna try to add more product because again, it's just gonna make my under eyes look worse. I would rather sacrifice coverage than sacrifice wear. Now, before I set my under eyes with another new product, not from Vieve, but I'm still gonna highlight it, I'm gonna use this one. This is the Modern Radiance Cream Bronzer. I have the Modern Bronzer. I used it in the first video. And while I like it, and I'm gonna use it in this video too, just not on the face, I love this stuff a lot. And you know, I feel like I'm very hit and miss with cream bronzers. I have some favorites, but I feel like I try more than I don't end up liking versus the amount that I do like. This one I do like. This is in the shade Light Medium. I'm taking my IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe number 7 brush, tapping into the product, tapping on my hand because it is very pigmented, and then just stippling where I normally put bronzer. A little bit goes a long way, which is why I recommend tapping it off onto the hand, but it just blends into the skin flawlessly. And I don't know if it's the color, the formula, probably a mixture of both, but I just love it. And I use it on my forehead, and then I'll use a little bit on my cheek, and I have been applying bronzer higher. It ends up getting covered up a little bit by blush, but I'm okay with that because I have found that if I just get any lower than that lately, it really drags my face down, and I never forget the temples. And a little bit right here, I wanna suck that up. And a little bit on my jawline. I hope it's gonna come across how pretty this bronzer is. Now let's set the under eyes. Again, this is not from Vieve, but it is a new shade of the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. They recently expanded their shade range. They used to have just one shade, I think. Did they have two? Maybe they had 2 shades. And now I think they have 5. So they added a deeper shade, they added a pink shade, and a peach shade. I got the soft pink, and I also got the peach. I'm gonna use the pink today. I also ordered the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder Brush, which is this flat, mini looking foundation paddle brush. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work so well. I love this. And I'm gonna tell you, I like ordering straight from brands' websites a lot of times, not all the time. I mean, clearly I'm an Ulta and a Sephora and a Nordstrom shopper. But for instance, if they have a good loyalty program like Laura Mercier, when I made this purchase, I had like enough points and I got a free full-size blush. So while you can get points, you know, at Sephora and Ulta, it's never a bad thing to look at actual brands' websites, especially because they tend to run sales more often than the larger retailers. Don't need much of this at all. You can see I just patted it into the under eye. I don't find the formula is any different. It just has a little bit of a pink shade. I like it. I like the peach. I like the original. They are all good. Now I am going to use a little bit of my Fit Glow powder to set in the middle of my face. And I've been using my G Beauty blush brush for this step. This powder is the most instantly mattifying powder I have in my collection without making the skin look flat. And because it feels like 105 outside right now and the humidity is 150%, I really need to set my T-zone with something more mattifying so I don't get too shiny. Even though I technically don't have oily skin, I sweat. And the sweat tends to happen the worst in my T-zone. So if I use this powder, it keeps it at bay. And I'm gonna set the rest of my face with the Modern Powder Perfector. This is in the shade Light. I honestly think I could, especially this time of year, benefit from a little bit of a darker shade because this does tend to lighten my face a little bit, but it still works in the end. Now let's use a blush. They did send me this powder blush, and y'all, I love this blush. It is in the shade Sorbet. Look at this beautiful blush. This reminds me of one of my favorite blushes from the Beauty Counter blush way back when they had powder blushes I can't even remember. I think maybe it was guava. I can't remember, but it reminds me a lot of that. I don't really have anything very similar to this other than that. It's so pretty, but it is highly pigmented. I'm trying to find my blush brush. So I definitely choose my IT Cosmetics blush brush because it is super fluffy and flimsy, so it's not going to add too much. And I have a very heavy hand anyways, so definitely knock it off and just lightly tap it where I want. I also don't like to skip my temples when it comes to blush, and I'm trying not to come too far down. Oh, it's so pretty. Y'all know I've been on a pink blush kick lately, so I wanted a color that wasn't pink. This is definitely more of a peachy orange shade. To finish off the face, I am gonna use the Skin Dew. I'm still using the mini one. Y'all, this will last me forever. Unless you are wanting to use it all over your body, I highly recommend looking at the minis because you need the very smallest amount. And this is one of my favorite liquid highlights of all time. It is so shiny and pretty. This is too much. That's why I'm saying it's gonna last you forever. And I use a BK Beauty 109. Really work the product, about half the product into the brush. And then lightly tap it on my brow bone and upper cheek. See how pretty? It's just, and now you can definitely go haywire with this. And I do think if you do have the big one, or if you think you want to use it on your body, mixing this with a body lotion would be so gorgeous on the skin. I fear putting just this might be a little too much, but the formula lends to mixing well, so I think that would be pretty. In fact, I might try that very soon and let y'all know what I think. That is it for the complexion. I am gonna do lips before I do eyes because I need something on them. And they sent over this satin slip lipstick, and this is in the shade 90. Now, when I first tried Vieve lipstick in that original video, I think I had the shade Vieve and it was too warm for me. I love a nude shade, we know this, but I don't love a warm nude shade. I don't feel like it lends well to my complexion for some reason. This one is actually a pink nude and I love it. Now, it's very comfortable on the lips. It's not drying at all, but it's also not shiny. It doesn't have any kind of gloss feeling effects. It's a beautiful color. I do really like it, but I have to have gloss on my lips. I'm just someone who can't not have something that at least feels like a gloss. I do have a Vieve gloss. It's in the shade Pesca, and it's like a warm, more orangey type shade, which I am trying not to have with this particular lipstick. So I'm actually just gonna go in with my City Lips gloss, which y'all know is my favorite gloss of all time. This is in the shade Midnight Sparkle. And because I'm putting this over a lipstick, I've talked about this before, but I'll go ahead and tell you, I did get some on the doe foot. I like wiping the doe foot off onto a tissue before I put it back into the container, because if I don't, it's gonna end up being a light pink gloss before it's over with versus a clear. So it just kind of helps keep that from happening. Those two together though, I've been wearing for the past like 4 days and I love. But let's talk about really loving. And the eye look is what I'm really loving lately. It makes my eyes look so blue. It is 2 products. It's super simple and it's very fast. So I am taking, and when I did my first video, a lot of y'all said I need to check these out. They sent over the eye wand in mahogany. Now I think they used to have shimmer eye wands, but I did not see them on their site. So I don't know if they discontinued those. I'm hoping they bring them back because this one is spot on phenomenal. It is a deep, almost like burgundy terracotta brown shade. So mahogany is a really good name for it. And I have just been taking that and roughly applying it to my lash line. This is not gonna be a liner because it's way too thick. And then I'm taking a BK Beauty 211 and I am blending that out and up. So it just gives this really pretty smoky effect right on the lash line. And depending on how much pigment I want, how I feel like it's blending out, I might go in for a second layer. While these do blend out really easily, I don't feel like they fade throughout the day. So once they set, they set. I am gonna go in one more time just to build that up. I love this color so much. And now I'm gonna take the powder bronzer and I'm gonna use a rougher number 1 brush. And I'm gonna go into this little bit of a darker, warmer shade. And I'm going to put it in my crease and not care if it gets on my lid. So I'm adding to the warmth of the eye look, which is also gonna make the blue of my eye pop even more. And then I'm gonna go in with my favorite Bisciotto eye brush and just blend that out just to make sure there's no like harsh lines. And I can easily put this under the lash line and smudge it out, or I can use the bronzer, or I can use both. I think today I'm just gonna use the bronzer on a Refreshoto 1 brush just to connect that. And even though I haven't been doing this step, I'm gonna show you how you can take this is a Refer 34, which is a very skinny eyeliner brush. Pick up the product directly from the eye wand and then go in right at the base of your lashes to make that even more defined so that you have a darker line, a smudged out line, and then the bronzer. So again, not necessary, but definitely something I like doing if I want more definition right at that lash line. Now in that original video, my top 2 favorite products were the Skin Dew highlight and the mascara. This is the Modern Mascara I talked about in that video. This is a very weighty, luxurious packaged mascara. Like you just feel like it's a luxury product. It has an hourglass wand on it. And I typically include mascaras into 2 categories. One is lengthening, one is volumizing, and then sometimes it lands in both. This one has its own category, fluffy. This is a fluffy mascara. It fluffs my lashes up, and I can't think of another word that would describe it like that. So hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. Now, if I had to place it in one of the 2 original categories, I would say it's more volumizing than it is lengthening, but it still gives that fluffy effect to the lashes, which I absolutely love. And despite the fact that this is not waterproof, it's not tubing, it wears so well. It doesn't smudge, it doesn't flake, really easy to remove, which is half of how I rate a mascara nowadays. So these are still my top 2 favorite products. However, now that I have added to my Vieve collection, I have more favorites, and pretty much everything new that I use today is now a favorite. I love every single one of them. The blush, the bronzer, the eye stick, the lipstick, everything has worked so well. I do want to get a darker shade in the powder. I do want to play around with this a little bit more because I feel like in the winter when I am not self-tanning as much, I could use this by itself just to give a really pretty glow, but I also want to see if I can maybe mix it with some liquid bronzers and see if I can use it by itself that way. Even though it's thicker, I'm still going to play around with mixing it, but it does leave a very pretty finish. It's not too dewy once you set it down. And the way my face looks now is the way it's going to look later tonight. Again, I have worn this same exact look for the past 2 or 3 days now. I'm not sick of it. It wears well. I love it so much. So 2 to 3 to 4 thumbs up, however many thumbs you can act like you have. That's how many thumbs up I give Vieve. Spot on. Really, really love this brand. So as always, I want to know what your favorites are from the brand, if you've tried them. If not, definitely check out my links down below. If you choose to use them, they are affiliate links, and I appreciate that. And let me know what you are going to try out from this brand. Thank y'all so much for watching. I will see you in my next video, and I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.